Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Great GM. I've stepped outside of the studio today and I apologise if my audio is not very good, but as I was driving home from work I came across our park, behind me here, and I thought it's a great opportunity to ask a question which perhaps not many of you can answer. Now, if you're like me and you live in the heart of a giant city, coming across these wooded tracklands is often difficult. But what do you do as a game master to create a sense of realism in your games? In other words, what do you do to build up your mental library of imagery, of descriptions about natural surroundings? Now, I'm going to do some walking, so the camera is going to be a little bit slow, but this is one of my favorite parks. And the reason for it is it's got quite a variety of landscapes. And what I like to do whenever I go walking, which I try and do as often as I can, but that isn't often possible, is to try and absorb what I'm seeing, what I'm smelling, what I'm feeling under my feet, and obviously what I'm seeing. Now, South Africa currently is in a period of drought, but do you hear that? That's a little cricket in there somewhere, just going mad. That's a sound I can add to my library to describe to players. You hear the sounds of crickets in the background. Now, as I head into this little forest, I don't know if you can hear my feet. It's the sound of my feet on gravel, and it's that sort of crunching sound. Then as we get into the forest itself, I have to stop and just touch this tree, touch the bark. How many of you have had a druid who has gone out looking for sacred herbs or special herbs and you've said, well, you dig around the plants and things and you find it? What about describing the intricate detail of the lichen that grows in between the bark and on the bark, and the different colours, the greys, the whites, the stone-like lichen that has infested this tree? Or if we look up, in the massive boughs that stretch above you is the spectacular sight of this tree. So the point I'm trying to make in this video is it's about trying to invest in your own imagination to make the experience more physical, more real for the players. Now, the light is starting to set, so it's getting a little bit dark, but I want to just get you to start thinking that just because you're a game master, just because you sit around a table making up scenes and scenery, doesn't mean that you shouldn't occasionally get out of your game mastering chair and head into a forest or two and just come to a stop and listen. There's some doves over there. There's a whippoorwill somewhere else over there. Those crickets are going mad. There's a river in the distance. A sereneness fills you as you come to a little glade in the middle of the forest. In the distance you can hear birds singing and the chirping of insects as they go about their daily business. It really is about trying to make it as immersive as possible. The leaves crunching underfoot as you make your way through the dry brush. Sneaking is almost impossible. But why would you want to sneak in such a beautiful setting? The more you can absorb, the more you can experience. Now, just look here. We've got all manner. We've got white lichen, we've got green lichen, we've got yellow lichen. It's really just this amazing kaleidoscope of colour. Do we ever use that in our arsenal as GMs to tell a good story? I certainly try whenever I can and whenever I remember to take a moment to think about it. When we start talking about leaves, look at these different leaves. We've got this little plant. And right next to it, we've got this plant. And right next to that, we've got a dark, shiny leaf plant. I hope I'm filming this all right. I don't have my usual camera, so it's all on my cell phone. So, the more you can get out, the more you can experience, the more that you can add to your toolkit. I mean, look at that beautiful sunlight streaming in, hitting those trees. Is this a place where there are orcs or goblins? Through that pathway down there, is that a carriage of a princess coming along the road, being splashed golden by that sunlight that's streaming in through the clouds? That's a car because, well, we're in a city. But something else to add to your thought processes, when you are doing videos like these, is a sense of aroma, of smells, of colour. So with aroma, I mean, out here I'm smelling rather poorly, but I'm smelling all kinds of pollens that have filled the air, and there's little gnats everywhere. Again, there's golden sunshine. I'm about to walk into a tree. Oh yes, look at this tree. Hopefully you can see it. Right up there. Look at the damage that's been caused to that tree. What caused that damage? What lives in there? It's an interesting little sideline. Is that where a nymph lives? Well, perhaps, because behind me is a little stagnant pool. Water's running into it. It's a dark colour. It seems out of place here, actually, especially since we're in a drought. But there's black, brackish water. What's up with that? What lives in there, apart from the rubbish? Interesting. So I also find these walks often help inspire me in terms of talking about the dappled sunlight bursting through the trees, giving you glimpses of things unknown, of carpets full of leaves that have died and are now creating this soundscape for you. My advice to you is, our game is technically a sedentary game. So get out there, go for a walk, and stop and look at these purple flowers. Is that some kind of healing herb? I don't know. I allow my imagination to run rampant wherever I go. So whether it's in a park like this, where you have manicured lawns, as well as these wonderful tree-lined arcades that disappear into nowhere, I let my imagination go wild and I try and figure out what could live down here, what could live in there. Is this a forest full of thieves? Is there a prince trapped in a tower somewhere? Is there a princess? And I try and absorb as much as I can of all this different foliage. Well, I hope that's been slightly inspiring perhaps, and if that's got you to step away from the table for just a moment, then that's fantastic. Until next time, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We are also on Patreon, in case you didn't know, and if you want to support us, head on over to that as well. But whatever you choose to do, I wish you happy gaming.